Ever since Johnson Paste Wax went out of business, I've been looking for an alternative to that product. On Shopsmith tools, we have a lot of parts that are metal on metal that slide and glide, and we have to keep them waxed, otherwise they'll begin to corrode, even rust in some cases. So I reached out to the owner of one of these ceramic coating companies. You've seen these people are putting this material on top of their cast iron table saw tables, on their planer beds, joiner beds. And we had a discussion via Zoom, actually, about whether it made sense for this application where we have metal sliding on metal. And he said, I don't know, let's give it a try. So I actually took the way tubes, the top tubes here off of my Mark V. I soaked them in Evaporust. I used solvents to get down to the bare metal. I polished them with Scotch-Brite, and then applied multiple coats of one of these nano chemicals, whatever you want to call it. And the results are, in fact, let me drop this down. The results are, it's not great, not great. It still slides, but it sounds like bare metal rubbing on bare metal. Now, what's interesting is when I feel this surface, it feels slick. I mean, I can see how this stuff would be nice for sliding boards across a table saw. But for this application, it just doesn't seem to be the right solution. So I want to go back to using paste wax. I'm going to continue experimenting with tree wax, which I think might be a good alternative for us. But I noticed as I reassembled this, I put the tubes on in a different configuration than how I took them off. So either I've simply swapped them left to right or even end to end, because I can see there's a dent on the inside that was on the outside caused by a previous owner of this machine over-tightening the headstock lock. So for other reasons, I want to show you an interesting phenomenon about these way tubes, and we can do that by removing them again. So let's go ahead and get that started. So this process begins by sliding everything down to one end. We'll unlock the end here. And this is a Mark V, and so if you've got a Mark VII, it's going to be configured slightly different. So I've got set screws here on the bottom of this tie bar. This is the way tube tie bar, and this requires me to loosen these set screws a bit, and then we'll slide this off. Oh, and sometimes they do that. There we go. Slide the headstock this way just a bit. Lock it. Slide the carriage over to about 1/3 of the length of these. And then we're going to insert a 2x4 on top of those tubes, and then we're going to put the table in. We're going to essentially lower the table, which is going to raise the machine up to where we can slide the headstock off. Lock this in place. Headstock. Slide off. Also, when you do this, loosen that lock all the way. I'm driving those wedges out to their extreme position, and that way they'll stay in alignment with one another, which makes it a lot easier to slide all this back on. Oh, why was that so hard? All right, and then we can do the same thing. I take the tube, I take the spacer off, and so I don't lose this, I'm going to put this on the quill handle on the headstock to remind myself that it goes on between the carriage and the headstock. Now I'm going to remove the table. And we'll slide the carriage off. To get the way tubes off, depending upon your model, you either have a set screw here on top of each way tube, or if you raise this up, you get your long 9-inch Shopsmith toolbox, and you got to insert it around this pivoting pin and get into the set screw that's way, way deep inside of that casting. This one, fortunately, is right here on top. Okay, so these tubes are something that are called centerless ground tubes. Instead of sticking this piece of steel between two centers and turning it like a lathe, this is placed between two grinding wheels that are different sizes, different diameters, and spinning in opposite direction. I'll put a link to a great video that'll explain how this is done. But it's an economical way of producing relatively true cylinders. But these are not perfectly round, and this is not perfectly straight. And we can demonstrate that on the floor. The floor is a bit dirty. No guarantee that it's flat. Nope, my floor is not flat. All right, so that was a fail. My floors aren't flat enough to demonstrate this. So as an alternative, here's what I'll do. I'm going to hold these tubes against each other, and I'm going to rotate one at a time. And what I'm looking for is, does it stay tight against the other? And right there, I am seeing light between them. Much bigger light between them. And that's good right there. So I'm going to mark this. And hey, there's actually an indentation from a set screw where that was aligned at one point to something. So this side is either the straightest or it's bowing out towards this side. I'm going to spin these around. I'm using my foot here to help keep them from moving. And then let's do the same with this one. Okay, there's a gap between them right there. Ooh. Oh my. That's good right there. And I have swapped these around. This is from a different location. Shouldn't matter. So I'm going to put these back onto the machine with what is essentially the highest part going straight up. So for now, just for a moment, without the headstock on it, I'm going to go ahead and loosen these tubes, and we're going to dial them in. And it helps to make a reference mark somewhere both on the tubes and on the casting. And we're just going to give this a short rotation. It seems to be running better. That feels good. Let's get the headstock on here and see how it behaves. First thing I see is our spacer. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and attach the tie bar while I'm here. I'm going to leave those set screws loose for a moment in case we need to dial them in a little bit more. So let's slide the carriage. Well, that carriage is just moving horribly. You know, I've got that finish on the inside of that carriage casting, and I don't know if that's causing me the problems I'm experiencing here or not. Headstock's sliding relatively smoothly, not perfect. I'm going to give this a little more of a twist. We're going to get this where we like it. Oh my goodness, it's tight. That's better. I think I like it there. I'll go ahead and tighten. Whoops. Go ahead and tighten things up. All right. Now we're going to apply the wax. And again, old trick. I apply the wax through the rag, so I'm getting just a little film. You know, it wasn't that long ago we did this. A little frustrated with this whole process. I really hoped that we'd be onto something helpful. At any rate, I'm going to knead this till it melts and then apply it right through the rag. Most important lesson here is don't slide the headstock and the carriage across the wet wax. Also, while I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and wax the bench tubes. Now, they get waxed for a different reason. They get waxed just to keep them clean and slick. You can polish these up also with some Scotch-Brite if you've got a little bit of finish on them. While I'm here, I might as well apply some wax to the table. Got to go back and forth between them. Dag nabbit. Trying to stay on camera. Otherwise, I'd stand this up and just do it over here. Reminds me of a Bon Jovi song. Okay, make sure these things are locked. Then we're going to lower. Oh, sitting on the quill. We're not going anywhere sitting on the quill. This is put between two grinding wheels that are of opposite or no. Oh, I could have gone up a little bit higher. This is not my day.